Hello and thank you for looking at this video. I'm David Westgate, I'm the Managing Director of Andrews Letting and Management, and I thought it might be quite helpful to give you an update on the current market position that we're seeing at Andrews and to give you a bit of a feel for investments moving into 2016. First thing to talk to you about is the market for this year. It's been a very interesting year for us at Andrews, obviously with the general election earlier in the year. A lot of our investors really held off at the start of the year to wait and see what was happening with the outturn of the election. Thereafter, after the result was known, we did see a large increase in investment activity in the marketplace, and really all the way through to the end of the year we've seen a lot more activity through both buying, selling, renting and letting. So how do we think things are going to move forward over the next 2 or 3 months? Well, we're coming up to Christmas now, and actually this is a particularly good time for people to buy investments. Quite often the normal residential marketplace slows down a bit at this time of the year, but actually it is an excellent time to look out for property investments that haven't yet sold and enable yourselves to find a good product to buy. They are still out there, and a lot of sellers will look at actually taking some reasonable offers on property. So don't stop looking for property, it is out there at the moment. Property is actually one of the key issues that we've had this year, both on the selling side of things and on the rental side of things. There is a very, very large amount of demand for property at the moment across the network, and we've got a huge demand from both buyers and from tenants. And of course this really does mean that the pricing has gone up by some considerable percentages this year, both on the sales and on the letting side of things. So we think that the average sales value, sales prices have gone up around about 5.6% for the year to date. And on the rental side of things, we're seeing rents achieving more than 10%, some properties more than 15% over the same time last year. This is fueled by demand from tenants in particular. So at the moment we've on average got about 11 tenants for every property that comes to market. So it's a good time to be a landlord. How do we see this is going to pan out over the next 12 months or so is going to be interesting. We're watching the Bank of England's decision on interest rates very carefully, and the latest news on that last week is that there is no immediate change on interest rates. Which again means that there's some very, very attractive mortgage rates out there for investors and for home owners. So no real changes on the horizon, and whilst there's a lack of supply of property, we're seeing that the prices will actually continue to increase over the next 12 months or so, possibly longer. My own feeling is that it's still a great time to be a landlord, and really over the next 3, 4, possibly 5 years we're going to see continued capital growth. Clearly we can't apply that across the whole of the UK. We have to look at the key areas of demographics, the key areas of employment nodes, and actually where there are jobs, people need to find property to either rent or to buy, and those are the areas where we're going to see capital growth. Just a few other things for landlords in particular. There's been a raft of legislation changes over the last couple of months, and some changes coming into next year that you need to be aware of. The first big change was on the 1st of October this year, something called the Deregulation Act, which sounds terribly boring, but it's actually very, very important for landlords. It is a good piece of legislation that sweeps up a lot of problems with poor drafting of legislation over the last few years. And the key changes within that piece of legislation are around the service of Section 21 notices. So there are some changes that landlords need to be aware of, and please come and talk to us at Andrews and we can advise you of what those are. One of the key elements within that is really all about the prevention for landlords to do retaliatory evictions, which as we understand it, some landlords have been serving notices on tenants when they've reported repairs at a property, which is a way that they were thinking about removing tenants from the property. That is now closed off, and that landlords are now no longer able to serve a Section 21 notice if a tenant reports a repair. Very important. As part of this legislation, there's something called the How to Rent Guide that now has to be issued before a tenant takes a property. again, quite a lot of changes, but come and talk to us at Andrews and we can advise you the best way forward on that. Another piece of legislation that came in on the 1st of October, which is very, very important for landlords, is a safety feature for properties where a landlord now has to apply and put in place a smoke detection system and also a carbon monoxide system. Relatively straightforward to do, but there are rules that apply to this, and again, come and talk to us at Andrews and we can advise you how to deal with this. This is very important to keep the safety of the property and safeguards the tenants, but this is now legislation from the 1st of October. Another piece of legislation that's coming around the corner that you need to be aware of will be on the 1st of February next year, which is all about the right to rent. And this is actually a piece of legislation that informs both letting agents, landlords and tenants of how and the right that they have to rent a property. So this is about people that don't have a legal right to live and work in the UK. People that are on short visas now have to have the correct paperwork in place that's checked off by the letting agent to enable the let to proceed. Very, very important, because this is actually now a criminal matter if landlords actually let properties out to people that don't have a right to live and work in the UK. So you do need to be aware of that. And again, we can help you with that. Come and talk to us at Andrews. So my own view is it's still a great time to be a landlord. I think the key feature for me is actually the supply of property is diminishing, which means that the opportunities for landlords and rental increases, capital growth on their properties will remain strong, certainly for the next year, but quite potentially for the next 5 years or so. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening.